Hi folks, how are you doing? The second round of the Petrosian Memorial is over in Moscow, and luckily we're seeing lots of fighting spirit on the boards, lots of very interesting battles. All four games today were very interesting, very long, very hard fought. For instance, I recommend you to take a look at the game between Morozievich and Aronian, where you can see how to keep a balance, how to keep a pressure during lots of time, how to try to defend the worst position. But here we're gonna see the game between Vladimir Kramnik with white pieces and Inarkiev. This was the first one to finish, and we had a decisive result in this game. Now Inarkiev was coming from a tough day at the office yesterday. He was having his debut in these elite super tournaments, and he had a very difficult day. You know, he lost his game against Grischuk really badly. And today he was having black against Kramnik once again, against black pieces again, against somebody who's like Kramnik, not an easy task. On the other hand, Kramnik hasn't been playing that much lately. He had a bad candidates tournament later. He stopped playing for some months, so it was interesting how Kramnik was going to come back into the elite. So let's see what happened. Kramnik plays 1d4. No Nimzo-Indian offer accepted here. Instead we have a classical Queen's Gambit declined, Bishop e7. This is kind of the setup Inarkiev also used yesterday against the Catalan defense of Grischuk. Queen c2 was played here. Well, white is in choice. There is tons of moves here. Bishop f4, Bishop g5, even g3, transposing to kind of a Catalan. But Kramnik plays Queen c2. Of course, he's a huge expert on these openings. He knows what he's placed. He knows very well what he plays. Now bishop g5 is the move he tries after castle, and there is an interesting position here. Black has a wide choice of moves like knight bd7, c6, even h6 or d takes c. But Inarkiev plays here c5, an active option, kind of in the spirit of the Tarash defense in the Queen's Gambit. D takes c, and e4 was played. There is certainly theory here, and as the commentators were telling during the game, and Kramnik himself later repeated during the press conference, there was an interesting and important game played in this position with this line between Kasparov and Karpov in their World Championship encounters in the 80s, and it followed as with Queen a5. That's what Karpov plays in 87 maybe, I'm not sure, one of their first World Championship matches in Moscow. e5, knight d5 was played here, where after bishop takes c4, knight takes c3, Kasparov used a nice tactical moment to not to retake back the knight, but to castle, as black has two pieces hanging and he's not getting both of them back, so white is keeping his advantage here, slight advantage. Queen takes c5 and queen takes c3 was played there, and Karpov was able to defend successfully the black pieces here. After 38 moves it was draw. But after e4, Inarkiev goes another way. He doesn't play this queen a5. He went which was certainly an interesting move, knight f to d7. Now attacking the bishop on g5, offering an exchange on e7, and also this knight is doing okay here, attacking the c5 pawn of white, so fairly reasonable move. Bishop f4 was played here by Kramnik. I mean, he decides to keep pieces on the board as black is lacking development and space so far, so whenever you have more space than your opponent, you usually want to keep pieces on the board, as black's pieces, and as in this occasion, aren't very well harmoniously placed, so why not keep pieces. b5 was played here, certainly a very interesting choice. Well, Kramnik told in the press conference later that he was expecting knight c6. Of course, it's a very principled move, looks very logical. Bishop takes c5, rook d1 for instance could be played, and white has a slight advantage. He has better harmonious pieces, more space, you could argue, in the center, better coordination, better development, and funnily enough Inarkiev's position is slightly uncomfortable, very similarly to what happened to his position yesterday against Grischuk. I see lots of similarities between this position and the game he had yesterday against Grischuk with black pieces as well. But as we saw, bishop f4 and b5 was played. Certainly a very interesting move. Well, black is challenging white to take en passant, otherwise he's guarding with a pawn, he's overprotecting his c4 pawn, and definitely he's going to take the c5 one back. So basically white has to take here en passant. Knight takes. Now rook d1 was played. Poor queen has to go to e8, not looking that great there. And bishop e2. Not that comfortable position for blacks, probably still playable, not that much of a problem. Black just has to complete development, and he has certainly a couple of ways to try to do that. You can see the knight on b8 has a couple of ways to go. Even d7 could be a reasonable square. The bishop is to be placed either on a6, b7 looks reasonable, so black had to choose here kind of the position, the structure he was going to choose. Played knight a6, but overall the problem here I think for black is that apart from the better development, white has succeeded in creating a weakness of black here on c4. It's not that clear because it could be used, it could be easily protected with the bishop, with the knight, and even sometimes knight could go to c5, try to go to d3. It could be used as an offensive weapon, but it seems that c4 is more a weakness than a strong point for black. So that is one of the advantages Kramnik has in this position. Now after knight a6 he goes with knight e5, undisputed strong knight there on e5. Well, both knight and bishop are targeting c4 right now. Apart from that, well, this rook is really looking great on the open d file, cramping this queen, which cannot do that much from here. So knight b4 was a kind of a natural move, but white just goes back. And after black completes development with bishop a6 protecting his pawn, simply a3, chasing that knight back to c6. And here a very nice move by Kramnik, really the kind of moves that you really like to see in these GM games, because you learn a lot with this. b4. First of all, Kramnik is using the tactical pin here on this light square diagonal. Black cannot take en passant, so first of all he's making sure black is not taking here, because the bishop would be hanging. So in this way he's getting a 2 against 1 in this queen side. His a and b pawn are against this a pawn, so in an eventual piece-less endgame this would be a very good nice thing for white. Apart from that, he's isolating even more this black c4 pawn. I mean, reinforcements are much difficult to bring here to help this c4 pawn. Right now there are tactical things going on. b5 is threatened, so certainly a very beautiful move. b4, very instructive one. Bishop f6 was played, and the knight goes back to f3. There is a clear threat of pushing e5 here and cramping black's position for once. I mean, if this pawn goes there, more lines are opened in the center, and black is going to really suffer in a difficult position. So Ernesto decides just to exchange this bishop for the queen. So another slight advantage for white, which keeps improving his position. Now he has the bishop pair, black hasn't the bishop pair, so we keep seeing how white's position keeps improving, very similarly to what happened to Grischuk yesterday against the same player as black, Ernesto Inarkiev. Kramnik keeps improving his position. Now he has a weakness on c4 of black, he has the bishop pair, he has better coordination. Now queen was to go to c8, at least she leaves from this badly looking e8 square. Kramnik castles, and bishop b5. Ernesto tries to solidify his queen side, but white has better coordination and easier moves. Bishop d6, attacking the rook, and after rook d8, e5. Just take a look at this nice bishop here, completely controlling the board, protected with the pawn, cementing the position here. And really it is very important, very instructive, I think, to note very important pattern. Black king is kind of abandoned by his pieces, kind of alone. Nobody, almost no piece of black are defending black king. So this is going to be very, very important in this game, as you're gonna see. And I think it's very instructive to try to learn this pattern. I mean, nobody defending this king, so white has better pieces, more space, good coordination, so that's dangerous. Black king, it couldn't seem so at the first sight, but it's going to be a target in this game. h6, certainly Inarkiev can smell some of it, so plays h6, giving him space here on h7, also stopping knight, for instance, jumping from g4 to g5. But the knight goes to d4, attacking the bishop so far. a6 to defend it. Now bishop f3, putting more pressure on the big diagonal here. And Inarkiev takes on d4. Of course, white shouldn't rush here to take with the bishop the rook, because oops, we missed this fork and the queen is gone. That's check. So the correct move here, of course, is to take with the rook. And not only we have still the rook under attack on a8 with the bishop, but the very important thing here, key factor in this position already, it is this rook, which was able to come to the central d4 square, from where it will very easily slide to the king side and become a very, very important piece to attack. What we saw a couple of moves ago was a kind of an unprotected king, so Kramnik will now show us what his real intentions are. He was kind of shuffling around here on the queen side, organizing his pieces, and now that the king of black hasn't that much protection, he's going to go for the killer attack. Bishop c6 is played, bishop e2, he keeps putting pressure on c4, why not? Bishop b5, and now it's time to show our cards. Rook to g4, we're going for the kingside attack. King h8 was played here, certainly a good prophylactic move, because white had already a slight threat here. Slightly unpleasant, to say the least, would be if, for instance, just say move queen d7, ignoring this threat. We would have something like queen e3 and attacking at the same time this knight, and attacking h6. Remember, the g-pawn is pinned, so this would be very, very uncomfortable for black. So this would be basically a blunder. King h8 was played. Inarkiev, of course, almost a 2700 GM can see this, and queen g3. Never mind, we're going for the attack. g7 under fire right now. Rook went to g8, and now rook to h4, playing with all this cramped position of the black king. Now the rook went to help here, but it is not enough, as we're gonna see. Queen d8 was played. The queen also tries to come here to try to defend. Now queen f4, of course, threatening to take here on h6. Pawn takes. That would be checkmate in 2 moves. So black has to do something, and there it was. Well, rook e8 was played here, by the way, giving some space to the king. But there was the interesting move g5 here. I mean, seems a move to be calculated, of course. That's a fork against the queen and the rook, but basically white doesn't have to worry. The computer suggests the move queen to c1, and to keep putting pressure, as of course black never can take on h4. This is checkmate. e1, queen takes h6. But here there were a number of really entertaining variations here. I tried to make work the move queen takes f7. This was certainly a very romantic possibility. G takes h4, and now bishop e7. Well, I can tell you, computer already likes black. He keeps saying black will defend. Now we're attacking the queen, and we're threatening to come with the bishop to f6 with very deadly effects. Rook g7 is suggested by the computer. Still, bishop f6 is a funny and beautiful move, because the rook cannot take f7 anymore. That is pinned with the bishop, and we're threatening to take it with checkmate. So the only move here is to
go queen g8 defending g7. Of course white doesn't want to exchange queens because that would be well as much as resigning. Queen h5, and now king h7 is suggested by the computer. Of course now the rook isn't pinned anymore, and well, the best white has here is to exchange, but even so it seems this is losing for white because the attack is gone. Of course white would love to have a tempted to play something like bishop d1 to go c2 and checkmate, but unfortunately black rook isn't pinned anymore, so rook takes g2 with the check would come and black is winning. So this was a variation, a funny variation could be analyzed there, but g5 wasn't played, rook e8 went on, and Kramnik couldn't wait anymore. He sacrifices the rook right away. We'll have to see this rook sacrifices by top GMs. Pawn takes, queen takes with check, and king g8. And white's plan is fairly simple. The pattern is, I think, important to recognize. The rook somehow will try to go either to the third or fourth rank, come to the g file, and that's checkmate. Or even the bishops could be helpful here to try to deliver checkmate on a7 or somehow or something, but it is very important to know that all this is possible thanks to this enormous bishop on d6, protecting f8 for instance, stopping the good coordination and harmony between black pieces. They cannot hurry back to defend the king, so this bishop is key in this position, as you can see. After king g8, well, the move f4 was played, fairly simple the idea, rook f3, rook g3, game over. The computer is saying that rook d1 was even stronger. The idea is the same, rook d4, rook g4 checkmate, but there is also some extra possibilities for white, as there is this discovered attack, possibilities of discovered attack. There is this x-ray against the queen, and whenever the engine is suggesting something like queen takes d6 for black, you know black has some serious troubles. But anyway, f4 was played and the position is winning anyway for white. Kramnik explained there are lots of ways to win this, of course, and that's true. Bishop c6 stopping rook f3 right away, but simple move. I mean, f5 is also winning here. Bishop f3 simple move, because of course if bishop takes, rook is already there. Rook g3 unstoppable, and that's checkmate. So queen c8 was played here instead by Inarkiev, trying to hold on, still defending the position. Now f5, e takes, and now Kramnik goes for the final moves. Queen g5 check, king h8, and now bishop takes. The point is not that difficult to see, I guess, that after queen takes, rook could go to f5 and black is getting checkmated in lots of ways depending on what black plays. For instance, rook e6, well, now queen h5 could follow, a check with the queen on f7, that's why we have the rook on f5, king h8, h5 check, rook h6, and that's checkmate. Just an example of how black could be checkmated here. After bishop c6, so queen takes, c6 wasn't played. Inarkiev played rook e6, trying to defend the king, but it's too late unfortunately for him. Rook takes f5 happened anyway. Well, the bishop goes away at least from a7, it was unpretty there. But now queen h4 check, king g7, rook h5, threatening rook h7 check, followed by checkmate in a couple of moves. Only way to defend that is to play queen g8, defending somehow the h7 square, but after bishop e4 attacking with another piece, the strong bishop, the h7 square, it was all she wrote. Ernesto Inarkiev resigned the game after 40 moves, just about to make the time control, and it was very smooth and instructive victory for Vladimir Kramnik, who is back in business after resting for some months, and a really terrible start for this elite tournament for Ernesto Inarkiev from Russia, who is now on 0 out of 2 in the 2 first rounds of this Petrosian Memorial. Thanks for watching.